welcome back to Rolling with the Punches. We're here on episode 11, and today we are delighted to be joined by Cam F. Awesome. Cam's a 4-time US title champion, 3 times Golden Gloves champion, Pan American Games bronze medalist. Cam, how's it going, mate?
Good. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we're really good. Thanks. How you doing, Connor? You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm all right. Thanks, Ben. I'm really excited for this episode as well. I can't wait to crack on and get into it.
Yeah, sounds. So I guess we'll just jump in. I just wanted to sort of tell a bit of a story here, Cam, and I think the best place to start really is where you grew up and kind of how you found boxing. So if you could just tell us a bit about where it all started for you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I grew up, my dad was a big boxing fan, and so the TV always had boxing on it. But as a child, I didn't want to watch boxing. I wanted to watch cartoons. So I grew up hating boxing, basically. I was overweight in high school and was never a boxing fan, never watched boxing, but I wanted to lose weight to get a date for prom. And the only way I could do that if I joined a gym, the only free gym in the neighborhood happened to be a boxing gym. And I just joined for strictly fitness reasons. When I got there, the coach didn't pay any mind to me because I said I didn't want to box. I was just there to work out. So he let me jump rope, hit the bags, and fool around. And I went there 6 days a week. I dedicated myself to it because there's no motivation like hormones to a 16-year-old. Because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get ripped and get a girlfriend. So I was there 6 days a week, and I realized no one was coaching me. So I would look at what other fighters did, and I would emulate it. But there were some things I would see that they did that didn't make sense, so I just didn't do it. So like if I saw a guy hitting the heavy bag, and he was hitting like the middle of the bag and not hitting eye level, I realized, well, he's wasting his time. So I developed the habit of I walk up to the heavy bag and I touch my face on it, and that's the level where I punch. So like that's something I learned. Another thing I saw was the speed bag. I saw everyone lining up to hit the speed bag, and I was like, oh, I wonder what this does. And someone said hand-eye coordination, and I thought immediately bullshit. So the coach who loves everyone hitting the speed bag, I called him over. I was like, what is this for? He's like, hand-eye coordination. I was like, can you hit it? And he shows me. I was like, can you hit it with your eyes closed? And he shows me him hitting it with his eyes closed. And I asked him, what does hand-eye coordination mean then? If you can do with your eyes closed. So I abstained from the speed bag because that I didn't see value in it. So I kind of taught myself how to box. So if you see my fights and you see I box a little unorthodox or awkwardly, it's because I literally had to teach myself how to box in the beginning of my career, and it worked. And if something works, why stop?
Sorry, so I was going to say that. Do you think that that unorthodox, or that, as you mentioned, that kind of benefited you on the way, because you get so many fighters who are kind of rigid in their techniques, where throw your 1-2s, you're such a set way. Did that benefit you going forward, having a different style?
Oh yeah, it's people are, especially super heavyweights, they're so one-dimensional because they have this idea of I'm just going to knock someone out. I came into this, first of all, I hope that's fair because it's 8 a.m. here.
That's not, though. I wish it was apple juice. I can crack one open though.
Like, you guys party hard.
Yeah,
yeah, we're Brits. We love a beer. My
mom is still loyal to the Queen. She lives over there. She's from Birmingham, so she grew up in a very English household, eating all of your foods and learning about Princess Diana. Just Bob Marley and Princess Diana was my whole childhood.
What doing?
Cam, when did sort of things start to get serious for you then with amateur boxing? Was there a sort of time scale of a number of fights where you suddenly realized after them that you had what it took to maybe box at the top level nationally?
Oh, so like I always wanted confidence. And after I was like 16, 17, I lost the weight. I still hadn't fought yet. But after I started looking good, one day in the gym, someone was like, hey, Cam, you've been here longer than, like, you've been here every day. You're in great shape. Do you want to spar? I was like, my mom won't let me. And then everyone starts laughing. I was like, I'm joking, guys. I'll spar tomorrow. And then I had to like get a mouthpiece. That's kind of like what pressured me into it. And I was just the king of sparring. I sparred everyone in the gym. I can give you all the rounds you want. I'm sparring guys from like from 130 pounds up. Like, no matter how small, how big, I spar. I just cared about sparring. I didn't like care about punching. Thought it was cool to slip punches. And that's all I kind of did. And I realized quickly that I have no interest in becoming a professional boxer. I realized quickly that if I'm mentally tougher than the guys with muscles, I could beat them easily. So when you asked when I thought I started getting good, I thought I was the greatest boxer to ever live before I had my first fight. In hindsight, not even close, but I had that confidence with me. Another thing that was good was I knew I had no interest in becoming a professional boxer. So when you asked when did it get serious, technically it never did, because I don't really give a shit. Like, I'm very passionate, but this isn't my life calling. This is my life goal. Like, this is not how I feed my family. So I've never had that pressure on it. So boxing is just something I was passionate about, that I love, that I enjoy doing. And the reason why I could smile and flip in the ring and do all these dances, and I don't give a shit. This is just fun for me, purely fun.
I think that's such an interesting point of view, because I think every fighter probably has that mentality that they just do it because they love it. But then when it gets to the point of prize fighting and the money takes over, and then it takes maybe that element away, and to show that you still had that. And when you were fighting, that what was the reason? It's something I really like. And was it different for you? Did you feel like you had the edge mentally over everybody? I mean, how important is that mentally versus your physical body when you're going into a ring?
Oh, if you saw any of my earlier fights, I was fat. Like, I was a little chubby, because I realized I didn't need to get in great shape. The stronger a person's muscles are, the weaker their mind was. So I just play mind games. It's an example of what I do. So a lot of stuff I do in the ring looks goofy, but there's a method to it. So one of the big things I do is when a bell rings, I'm southpaw, get to the middle of the ring, round one of a fight. I wait for a guy to throw a jab, I slip, I throw an uppercut. It's my favorite punch. I do it so often, I can do it in my sleep. They throw a jab again, I slip, uppercut. They throw a jab again, slip, uppercut. The fourth time in the first round, they throw the jab, I slip, and then I look at them. Now they know it's a game. If they throw that jab, I'm gonna punch them in their face. So then they stop throwing the jab. Now I'm fighting a one-handed fighter. It's not that hard to be good when you're fighting someone with one hand. And then once I figure out how to do that with their right hand, counter that, then they stop throwing punches. Meanwhile, their coach the entire time is screaming at the top of the lung, throw punches, just throw the jab. And they're yelling out combinations for the fighter to throw. Then the fighter, out of frustration, is doing exactly what the coach is saying. I literally see it coming and I counter it. Now, at this point, at no point of this am I hurting the person with hard punches. My idea is just to get under their skin and piss them off. Another thing I do to get under a guy's skin is if they throw a hook, I can slip it, I can counter it, but I don't. I duck, and as their hook goes over me, I turn their hips around and I pull them in closely. So I basically hump them from behind. And now it's not an exaggerated hump. I just hold them in close, just for a second. I know what I'm doing. He knows what I'm doing. The ref knows what I'm doing. The crowd knows what I'm doing. But when the ref says break and separates us, he doesn't look at me. He looks at my opponent and warns them for turning their back to the action. Now, at that point, aren't you really fucking frustrated?
I'd be livid, yeah.
Then you start throwing wild punches to knock my head off, and I'm just touching you with jabs. And then the fight ends. You don't get hurt, but your feelings do. And then I win. Granted, it's not the most exciting thing for people because I don't knock people out, but if I don't get hit and I win, that's great. That does work out, but I will say there are a few people who that doesn't work against. There are a few people that I didn't have that I couldn't break mentally. Michael Hunter. I couldn't break Michael Hunter mentally. I lost to Michael Hunter. Your cruiserweight there, WBC cruiserweight, first European cruiserweight.
Okolie.
Yes, he beat me as well in WSB, and it was a close fight. But he's good. Yeah,
he's so long, isn't he, Cam? He's so long.
Yeah,
unbelievably long. Yeah,
yeah. Real snappy with his punches too. Like, yeah, he's a great fighter.
Yeah, I think as well with him, I think you'll certainly see him move up to heavyweight in the near future because he's got the physical attributes to do it. I don't know if you agree with that, but
no, I definitely. I always hear people talk about someone who beat them and then talk about how great they can't be. Like if someone beat me, I want them to be the greatest as possible. But I'm always curious I know it's a money deal, okay? And I know people are persuaded by money very easily. But if I were to turn pro, I have no interest in it, but I would just be a giant shark in a small pond. And I would fight at cruiserweight and I would just dominate. There's no real competition. Like, I mean, but that's my way of thinking. And then I would just monopolize the belts and market the hell out of myself and make money doing my antics like Gregor does and build my name, fighting no one. Butterbeans did it before the internet. You remember Butterbean, right? Butterbean was a king of 4-rounders, had a great career, didn't fight any real competition besides Larry Holmes or novelty fights, and made some good goddamn money. Like if I was a cruiserweight, that's the approach I would take. And maybe I would take challenges as well. Anyone who's at cruiserweight around the world, experienced or not, I'd fight you just for a spectacle. If Jake Paul is doing that silliness, and not even silliness, I won't even disrespect him with that. I'm a fan of what he's doing. He's manipulating the system and leveraging what he has. Because boxing promoters, it's a dirty game. You guys know how crooked the pro game is. Some kid with no fight experience is showing up with his own fans. If you have your own fans, you don't need a promoter. If you don't need a promoter, you have the power. You're taking control of your own career. So what they're doing is they're paving the way and showing boxers the right way to become a professional boxer is to have control of your own career, have your own fans, because he has his own name. And I'm sure he's making a lot more money than some of the 2016 Olympians. I'm sure he's making more money than how much did his name slipping me, the guy from the cruiserweight that I lost to.
Lawrence Curley, yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence. I'm sure Jake probably made more than Lawrence. Jake Paul.
Oh, definitely. Like probably in the last one, probably 4 or 5 times more, I would suggest.
Okay.
Because
question: Who has the bigger name, Jake or Lawrence?
In the UK, sadly, probably Jake Paul, which is quite sad. But
in America as well. Who has more viewers for their fights, Jake Paul or Lawrence?
Globally, Jake Paul. UK, maybe Lawrence. Not sure. Hard to say.
Who's made more money, Jake Paul or Lawrence?
Yeah, Jake, mad.
Who's the better boxer, Jake Paul or Lawrence?
Jake Paul. No, Jake.
Hey, that's the thing. Who's the better boxer? Is it Jake Paul or is it Lawrence?
Well, it's Lawrence, isn't it? But yeah.
Says who? Is it says the ratings, says the money, says the attention?
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of skilled fighters who never turn pro. So am I considered one of the best pro boxers? I never turned pro. I mean, you just don't get the title because you put the hard work in. Like what Jake Paul did was he was able to leverage the sport from a different angle. And we should, like, of course, I think it's funny. I think it's funny, but I think it's brilliant. And I think we should take that blueprint as fighters. Because as fighters, we don't have control of our own careers. And we can judge these kids and say that they're punks and they can't fight. And of course, he probably couldn't win like the Oklahoma Golden Gloves. But the fact is, everyone's watching him fight. Was Mayweather the greatest boxer of all time? I would say so, because he made more money than everyone else. He left undefeated. What constitutes him to be a better boxer? What would make Floyd Mayweather a better boxer to you?
To me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think he's the greatest defensive fighter of all time. I don't think there's any disputing that. But I think if you look at the guys in the past, these records, you look at Sugar Ray Robinson and how many times he boxed compared to Floyd Mayweather, there's no contest. You know, Roberto Duran, I'm pretty sure, was 70-0 at one stage in his career, but that doesn't mean to say he's the greatest fighter of all time. I mean, a lot's made of that record that Floyd has, but I'm just saying he didn't quite box as much as some of the greats before him.
So, and that's a great argument. But the idea of boxing is to hit and not be hit. No one says how far you must go. Now, of course, Mayweather could have took that Pacquiao fight 6-7 years earlier, but would that have been the right thing to do career-wise for his career? So the fact that he built his career up to a point where he is able to call his own shots the way Jake Paul is why he's the greatest boxer ever lived. He won all the belts and he made more money than anyone else. You won, and he didn't get hurt. He won everything. And I'm not saying that I loved him as a fighter. Like, his style, not really for me. Like, personally, not for me. But I do think he's the greatest fighter ever lived just because of the way he carried himself. Now, the greatest athlete to ever live, Muhammad Ali. Because it's not just the athlete's part of it. It's not just the sports part of it. He uses his platform as an athlete for change here in America, especially in the Black Civil Rights Movement. And to me, he used his power as not just a sports person. He uses his platform as an athlete to change the world. So the greatest athlete of all time, Muhammad Ali. The greatest boxer, Floyd Mayweather, just because of the business aspect of it. Ali fell short with money. He fell short with business deals. Mayweather kind of had that tied up, and that's the only real difference. But influence-wise, Ali's the greatest.
Sticking with sort of the pro game and kind of where you are, what is the main reason then? Because obviously you spoke a bit there about the crookedness of some of the stuff in the pro game, for example. Is it because of that you didn't turn pro, or is it because you just love what you're doing at the moment? What's the main reason, do you think?
Oh, like in the very beginning, when I said boxing wasn't like my life or anything, it was just something I found that I was good at. I realized that I can use it to leverage myself in life. I didn't go to university. I didn't go to college. So after like 2012, after I won the Olympic trials, I got kicked off the Olympic team. I was suspended for a year. I didn't have anything. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have any jobs. I didn't have any skills, any degrees, any talents, or any way to make money. So I realized at that point I was going to become a professional speaker. I was going to become a professional speaker alongside boxing. I would win a national championship. And during my interview in the newspaper or on TV, I talk about my speaking career. So I just kind of leverage boxing as a way to build my speaking career and be able to travel the world. Because I never got to travel until I started boxing. I've been to England probably 15, 20 times, back and forth to Sheffield, to the training center. I've been to 31 different countries. So the reason why I boxed was just for the experience and to actually make me special enough to get a job. But I never really was interested in making boxing my job, because I think if you're not going to do something 100%, you should do it. I see too many boxers half-ass their career and lose. I'm not sure. If you're not going to do it 100%, don't do it. And I'm a person who says that, and I'm obviously living it, because I'm interested in a lot of what's going on in America with police brutality and implicit bias, and that's kind of where my passion is, and that's what's drawing me. But yesterday I sparred 6 rounds. So I'm still boxing to stay in shape, and I do it purely for vanity. I just want to look good. But the idea of doing cardio and just all of that's involved in boxing, the pro side of it, I just want to fight. That's why I have 400 fights. Is I saw guys like they would only fight and go to nationals, or they fight one tournament a year. I drove around in my Prius by myself. I would drive to different fights. If there was like a smoker show 6 hours away, I hop in my car, I drive there. I find any random person to work my corner, and I fight. That's why I have so many fights. Is I don't really care about training. I love fighting. And I think I'm pretty good at it. So people should see me do it. And that was always my my mental reckoning.
You touched upon something there which you were talking about before, because I think it's important for us to kind of ask and also document the highs and lows of everyone's career and the whole journey. And so you said you were banned for a year. Can I just touch upon that and kind of ask what happened there and kind of the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, that was 2012. I got suspended for USADA or WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. They showed up to my house to randomly drug test me. And I was not in the country. I was in Azerbaijan fighting in a tournament where you get drug tested to compete in, but they don't care about that. The fact that the same organization drug tested me the same week in a different country. It was the third time it had happened in 18 months. Now, as someone who I'm not homeless at the time, I have a home now, but I just bought a house last August. Until then, I lived in a van and I lived in hotels. So it's a nice van. I drive around. There's like a bed, and like coffee maker, Wi-Fi, everything in this van. And I would travel around speaking at schools, boxing, and doing comedy shows. So I don't have a home. So they want you to know, let them know where you're going to be at all times. So it's like a probation officer. So they want to be able to call you at any hour from a random number, and they want to know where you're going to be. They want you to know you're going to be home in an hour. It's hard to tell them where I'm going to be if I don't have a home. So after I got suspended, and they put out a statement because I told them they're ruining my career, because at the time I don't even do drugs. Like at the time I was fat. Like it's not even like I was juicing or anything. And so they released a statement to say that there was no suspicion of me doing drugs. But after I took my year off, I was very depressed. I gained a lot of weight, and lost the bet, Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley. And because I lost the bet, I had to be vegan for 28 days. Because Timothy Bradley was like a vegan at the time, and I lost the bet. And I started this vegan journey. And in 28 days, I had to do it for 28 days. I lost 32 pounds. I started to get in shape. And after 28 days, I was like, well, I'm looking good. I'm just going to do it for a little bit longer. And it's been like 9 years now. I'm still vegan, but it helped propel me, get me back in shape, and motivated me to return to boxing. But I didn't want to return to boxing as that person that I was before. So I wanted to change some things about myself. And I found out that it was about 100 pounds to legally change your name. So I was like, sure. So I was going to change my last name to Awesome, and I was going to change my last name to Fossum, but I didn't want people to think that what Fossum stood for was effing awesome, because I had foresight of knowing that I'm a youth speaker. I need to go get into schools. I need an appropriate name. So I changed my first name to Cam, my middle name just to the letter F, and my last name to Awesome. Problem averted. So I'm Cam F. Awesome to you guys, and in schools, I'm just Cam Awesome.
That's amazing.
And then after that, all of that happened, I'm guessing you were approached then by Netflix, and kind of was that part of this thing of building a name up and trying to build the profile up to what you do now? Was that all part of that, or was it just something that you got approached randomly by?
Oh, I got approached randomly about it. It was crazy. 3 people in this. No one has ever cared about me enough to do a story on me. 3 people in the same week sent 3 different emails asking for me to be in documentaries. So I thought it was the same group, same team, but it's all asking about the same documentary. So I just emailed one of them back and like let them know. And I started filming this vegan documentary called From the Ground Up. And I was in New York City at this boxing match, and this guy comes up to me and is like, "Hey, we've been emailing you about this documentary." I was like, "Yeah, I'm here for it." And he's like, "Yeah, we want you to start filming." I was like, "Well, I'm leaving tomorrow, and from the ground up, or I'm leaving in like a week." And he says, "Can you extend your trip?" I'm like, "Sure, as long as you guys are paying for it. I'm here. These hotels are expensive." And I didn't realize it was a second documentary, and it was Counterpunch. So they reached out to me. I didn't think anybody would care about my story. I was just doing my own thing, and it was a great story. I would have never thought to be in a documentary.
How's that experience been then? With obviously the feedback and everything's been amazing, but for you it's kind of, it's probably a different, almost, even though you want to do motivational speaking, it's a bit of a different industry, film, kind of documentary. Did you enjoy it?
No. Yeah. It's very invasive. For them to get all of those intimate parts of your life, they have to get all of the intimate parts of your life. And somewhere there's a video out there of me crying a lot. I'm a crier. And like I've never watched. I watched Counterpunch once just because it's weird watching yourself on TV. Listening to your own voice in a voicemail. You know how annoying that is? Now imagine adding in your awkward mannerisms and seeing yourself. So, but if they got a running scene, like I remember I was running on a mountain. I don't even know if they used this scene, but I was running in Utah in these mountains, and they got me running for 2 miles, and the camera's like facing east, and they want me to do the same run again, another 2 miles, but camera from the west, like to get different angles of me running the same. And like no one realizes to get like a 2 mile run footage, it takes a lot of running. And I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. Like, I'm supposed to do a 2 mile run. How am I running 6 miles for the camera? So there's a lot of things people don't think about. And also I have a microphone on at all times. So if, let's say, it's Connor, you walk up to me and you want to say something about Ben, like say something funny or something that might be offensive. Like you walk up to me, I'm like, shh.
No way.
Because the camera's, the mic is on at all times. So you can't even say secrets. So like I have to text people while I'm next to them because you never know what they're going to use. And there's audio of me using the bathroom for like months. So like and I'm a very private, I'm extroverted, but I'm a very private person. Like I don't really like saying my business or like, yeah. So it was an invasive experience. I would do it again for the first time. So I would definitely do it again. I wouldn't do it a second time, or I've done it enough. I've done it enough. I just don't want to do it anymore. If it's really worth it and it's something big, or if it's for, let's say, a vegan documentary or something that I'm passionate about, I'd love to expose my life to that, but, ugh. And I sleep naked.
I wanted to ask you as well a little bit about regrets, kind of, or anything you've regretted, and in particular, I guess, do you think that Netflix documentary sort of affected negatively your performance at the time at all, in a lot of the competitions you were boxing in?
Oh, no. And even if it did, it wouldn't have mattered. Because the reason why I was boxing was just because I realized if I have all these national championships, and let's say you have an associate's degree, right? And we're both going for a marketing job, and I put on my resume that I'm like, I've done all this stuff. Even though you have an associate's degree and I'm not good at the job, there might be a sports nut in there who's going to get me the job over you, because why not? So my reason for boxing was the exposure of it. So the fact that if it would have deterred my, actually, if anything, it made me get in better shape, because I'm all about vanity. I said in the beginning, I used to be fat, but after Netflix started recording me, I'm like, oh, I got to get ripped. I'm going to be on Netflix for the rest of ever. So I actually got in way better shape than I would have otherwise. So it was a blessing in every sense of the way of the situation.
That's really interesting. As I'm a documentary filmmaker myself, so when I look at it from somebody else's point of view and they're talking about it, because we're so focused on getting the content and getting the story across, you're so driven, you probably not thinking as a director of kind of the effect and what kind of the way the subject is feeling. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's just a really interesting part. But I also wanted to touch upon veganism there, because I'm vegan as well, and I'm
fellow weirdo.
Yeah, trust me, mate. No. So yeah, we're probably the only two that have this podcast that are. But so after that 28 days, kind of, what is it about veganism that you love that you haven't gone back to? Why are you still vegan as an athlete?
For the first thing I got into was I got into boxing to lose weight, and I lost the weight. And before you know it, I was competing at the highest level, but I was still fat, and even I was skinny fat. But when I realized I had a negative relationship with food, once I began to become vegan for those 28 days, one of the things that was involved in the Engine 2 28-day challenge was sobriety. So for the first time during my suspension, I wasn't drinking. I was drinking a lot. That's a lot of calories. So removing that from my diet, and I realized it wasn't what I had to abstain from. It was what I had to remove from my diet. Because if I can just swing by in the drive-through to McDonald's and just get a quick double cheeseburger today, just once today, I'm not gonna make a habit. I'll just do it once. I'll do that twice a day for the rest of my life. If I know I can go, I'll just drive through the drive-through and just like, oh, just this one time. And I would do that, and that's why I got fat. So now the fact that I have to pre-prepare my meals, and I'm pretty much plant-based. I don't eat any processed foods. My girl and I cook, well, her mostly, but I like to take credit. I do the dishes. So we cook every night. We cook whole meal meals every night. right now I'm walking around below my fight weight, like, and I'm not giving any effort. So being able to omit certain things out of my diet, I can't stop off at the fast food stuff. That has made it a lot easier. I have to plan my meals before I leave the house. I bring my meals with me. When I was living in the van, Mama Says, the vegan delivery company, they would just deliver plant-based meals in each town I was going to speak. So I'd stop off at the like UPS and I'd just get a box of frozen foods in my van, throw it in the microwave. And it's, if I can't eat McDonald's, Burger King, or junk food, I'm just stuck eating plants and nutritious food. And it's crazy because everyone's like, how can you skip eating meat? I'm like, people are so fascinated over the texture of an item because the meat is bland. Meat is disgusting. You have to cook it and then you have to season it and flavor it to make it appealing. And all the things that you use to flavor it and season it is all the things that I eat normally. So all I'm missing really is the texture of one item on the plate. It took a long time to wrap my head around that, and it is a big change. But the fact that my girl is vegan, we bought this house, it was refinished. There's no meat has ever come into our house or our pot, so it's, I don't know that I'm vegan. I'm basic. Let's say Ben eats meat. So I don't think I should have to like qualify myself as doing anything special. I just eat the basics. Ben goes out of the way to eat extra things. So Ben's a carnivore. I don't consider myself vegan.
I like that mindset. That's really interesting. I like that a lot, actually.
You touched on before that you spent some time down in Sheffield at the English Institute of Sport. Did you ever come across Anthony Joshua or any sort of big names of note down there?
Anthony Joshua, I sparred him, but he was green. Like this was back in like maybe 2010 or something. It was, or maybe 2009, 2010, I believe. He was real green, but you knew, like, he didn't have the experience, but sparring him, of course, I had all the fights I had, and he didn't have many fights, but sparring him, you knew, like, that dude's special. And of course, he's not from the States, and of course, I've got to be a fan of my home country, so I was cheering Wilder and everything. I was cheering for Wilder until I saw this friggin' weirdo show up to a weigh-ins, a press conference in a full Batman outfit and wouldn't take his mask off. And I was like, I think I found my favorite boxer of all time. And then came the reign of Tyson Fury. And I'm a fan of antics. And first of all, we box. It's entertainment. We play a sport. It's not that serious. Of course, you can die or whatever, but you can die doing everything. Like if, let's say you're playing football and you score a goal, like I think you should have 17 minutes to do a choreographed dance with your entire team. You should be able to celebrate. I don't believe in excessive celebration. You play a damn game. You should be allowed to celebrate. It's entertainment. Let's have fun. Too many guys are interested in the sport, but aren't interested in the entertainment. Tyson Fury has figured a way to balance the hell out of both. So I became a huge Fury fan, but Joshua, what struck me about Joshua is I didn't like him and I didn't want to like him. And then he lost to Ruiz. I didn't watch the fight, but the next day I saw a picture of him and Ruiz, each of them holding 2 of the 4 belts with their hands over each other. And the first thing I thought was, Ruiz got knocked out so bad that he's so grateful to be in the ring with Joshua. Because I didn't see the fight. It was the first thing I saw the pictures. The first thing I thought was clear knockout. And I realized that Joshua lost. And such a gentleman, such sportsmanship, he still had his arm. I didn't realize that he lost in the picture. And no excuses, like Wilder lost in the years, his outfit and this and that. And Joshua lost, and he lost with such class. And I hated it because how can you not love someone like that? And I don't want to like him, but now I have to. And on top of that, that was cool. But the thing that impressed me the most about Joshua was the second fight when he could have knocked Ruiz out. He wanted to show that he was such a good technical boxer that he could just outclass Ruiz for 12 boring rounds. Now, I did say in the beginning that I fight, people don't love it because it's not exciting. I don't knock people out. The fact that Joshua showed that he had the ability to do that showed me that he was great. And his attitude after taking the loss, I'm a Joshua fan for life.
Well, I suppose the obvious question now to ask, which is a pretty generic one, Fury versus AJ. It looks like it's in the pipeline now for July time, possibly. Who wins that fight, Cam, and how?
I think Fury outclasses Joshua and stops him pretty easily. Yeah. What do you guys think?
Ben?
Connor, go on, start, Connor. You start.
I'll go. Yeah, it's hard to argue it. I've said this before, like, I'm a huge AJ fan. Like, I think what he's done for the sport and the level he's taken it to, like, that almost sometimes looks past I'm an AJ fan, right? So I don't ever want to say Fury will beat him. But I think AJ's going to get to him. Like, I truly do think that, give it 6, 7, 8 rounds, I can't see Fury outboxing him, because I think Fury boxed brilliantly on the front foot against Wilder, but I think he'd have to box on the back foot against AJ, and AJ will eventually catch up with him. That's what I hope, and also what I do believe, and I won't say anything different. So that's Ben, what about
you? So from me, I think there's only one way I see AJ winning that fight, and that's at close quarters. He throws really good shots on the inside, big fast combinations. I think that's the only way he could get to Fury. But I think Fury's measuring of distance, the fact that he's shown that he can box, as you said, on the back foot against Wilder in the first one, and then on the front foot coming forward, I think he's just, to me, shown so many attributes that are perfect to beat AJ. So I just can't look past Fury. I think Fury beats him.
Yeah, no one's touching Fury right now for a while. And so Mayweather versus Pacquiao, both were great fighters, right? Great fighters. I would have bet both my livers that Mayweather was going to win. And I know I only have one. Like, that's how sure I am. Because there's a different, when Mayweather fought Gotti, he said, and I remember it was quite a flex. He said Gotti is a B+ fighter. He's like talking how great he is. He's like, but I'm an A+ fighter. And Gotti's going to beat a lot of people, but he can't beat an A+ fighter. And then when Mayweather fought him, he showed it. There's a different class in someone's boxing IQ and their ability to find a way to win. That's what always set Mayweather apart. Fury has always found a way to win. And just that athleticism and the mental toughness that man has, and the fact that Joshua is very respectful and is not much of a trash talker. So Fury's got him there as well. The antics, I mean, yeah, I don't, and also I'm more of a fan of the awkward guy at all times.
And Cam, do you feel the same about Canelo at the moment as you did back then with Mayweather? I know he's got a big fight with one of our Brits, Billy Joe Saunders, coming up. A slick southpaw, much like yourself. Do you feel the same sort of with Canelo at the moment? Do you think he's unbeatable, or do you think someone can beat him?
Right now, I think he's unbeatable. Who's his biggest? Who's his biggest other than Saunders? Who's his biggest competition?
Who? Canelo.
Yeah.
Well, I think Saunders possesses a lot of attributes to make that fight very awkward for Canelo. If you look back at the Erislandy Lara fight, I know it was a while ago, and when he's fought other defensive fights, he has struggled at times. But I think what you said about sort of at the moment, I think it's hard to look past Canelo. But I'm not really sure who you sort of say would be his strongest competition. I suppose maybe Saunders is. Maybe it is Saunders.
The fact that when I ask what is someone's strongest competition, and your response starts with a maybe, that guy's not to mess with. That's a bad man. If out of everyone you could think of, you start with a maybe, I'm like, that's where you put your money. Now, as a betting man of your own countrymen, you probably wouldn't bet against him. But the fact that you started with maybe, I know where your heart is.
But I agree with you. But when Fury boxed Klitschko all those years ago, that answer would have started with maybe in regards to Klitschko, and Fury was even longer odds. So I just don't think you can doubt those Brits going over there. I mean, I want to say that I really think Billy can win, but I understand how tough a fight is. But I just think he's still a tough test.
Oh, and just because Canelo is on fire doesn't take anything away from what Billy's doing. So yeah, he still has a fighter's chance. It's still a fight. I don't think I've ever entered a fight where I didn't think I was going to win. That's why I usually cry after I lose. It's not out of sadness, it's out of confusion, because I genuinely think I think there's 3 people in the ring and 2 of them aren't going to win. And I always think, well, why should I be the one not to win? And then I lose and I cry because, yeah, you try not to be too emotionally invested, but yeah, I just don't like when someone's better than me at something.
It's easy for it to get to you. Yeah.
Probably why, like, you know, had such an amazing kind of amateur record is that mindset for any athlete is the key, as well as the training and the hard work. Having that kind of mindset is important. And there's one question I wanted to ask you, actually. I wanted to ask you earlier, I forgot to touch up on it. What do you say to the argument that boxing is too dangerous? We saw obviously what happened to Patrick Day, from rest in peace. And what's your kind of retaliation? Because I know you're a huge advocate for everyone to try boxing, as are we, but what would you say to them?
I would say, first I would talk to the moms. I would talk to all the mothers out there who do not want to put their kids on a football field. They do not want to put their kids in a boxing ring, but in America, they would put their kids on a football field. American football, because for American football, there's scholarships involved. So parents put their kids in the line of danger because statistically, football is a lot more dangerous than boxing is. American football is a lot more dangerous than boxing is. I do understand your fan base. Sorry, Brits. But they'll put their kid on an American football field because they might have a chance of having a scholarship. And here in the U.S., it's college pride is a real big thing, and being able to get your kid into a premier school that saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in college expenses, because here that's a thing. So parents are more apt to put their kids on a football field and in danger's way for a scholarship. But they don't realize that, like example here, Kansas City, I live in Kansas City, we have Kansas City Golden Gloves. To get a 4-year scholarship, you need only compete twice. And by compete, I don't mean win. By compete, I don't mean fight. Compete, I mean weigh in and pass a physical. Twice in a year. Wow. To get a scholarship. It might not be the greatest full ride, but there are scholarship opportunities for boxing. And I think we shy away from it as a society because we're wrapping everyone in bubble wrap. And people talk about ways of making boxing safer. Please don't. If anyone's listening and you want to make boxing safer, don't. I don't box because it's safe. The rush I get from it is the danger. Like the American football, you can't tackle the quarterback, right? You can't tackle hard. You can't smash someone's body to the ground and celebrate over them. Why am I watching the sport then? The reason why I box is because it is dangerous. Do not remove the danger from my sport. Yeah,
that's a really, really good point. Well, listen, Cam, Connor, I don't know if you have any more questions, but just from us, thank you so much for joining us, Cam, because it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. Nothing more from me. So yeah, mate, really appreciate it, and we'll catch up soon.
Awesome. Later, guys.
Thanks a lot, Cam.